interesting role at Sam's Club. Can you tell us a little bit about the kind of scope of your role and what you do day to day?
Yeah, sure. So currently at Sam's Club, I'm the Associate Director of Category Brand Marketing, which means that I get to work with some of the best categories, our fresh freezer and cooler team, as well as our technology, entertainment, and office teams to really help translate their priorities into marketing strategies. So I work closely with them to uncover those great items that really help, solidify our quality perception. So yes, you think about Sam's Club, we have a lot of the key things that you get at most grocers, but I really like working with them to find out like, what's the new things that you guys are bringing into the clubs? What's the innovation? What are those, hidden treasures that we really can put in front of our members and tell them the quality stories behind them?
Well, I want to know first, actually, I keep these underneath my desk.
Oh, yes.
That peanut butter filled pretzels, don't tell. I don't think I've ever shown anybody that, but I appreciate Sam's Club every day. But you know, I think every career really has a story, and actually, the last panel was maybe a good lead in that your career hasn't really taken a linear path per se. Can you kind of you've had agency side experience, client side experience, data driven, creative driven. Can you just kind of take us through sort of the path that you've taken to where you are today?
Yeah, I agree. That was a great point that the last panelist made about, no career really being linear. I think about my experience like coming out of grad school and, I just knew coming out of that stage in life, I was going to be able to get a job as an associate brand manager or, directly hop into marketing. And unfortunately, I didn't. I actually started out working as, an admissions counselor at an online university. And it wasn't until like a year into doing that I was able to actually get my feet into marketing and starting out like on the agency side at, media agencies. But in like working at media agencies, so OMD, then moving to Starcom, and then getting, recruited for Home Depot and now at Sam's Club, I was able to take little things from all of those positions just to continue to develop and build on my career. So while it wasn't linear, it definitely has allowed me to just become a well-rounded marketer today. And not only, like, as you mentioned, not only from thinking with like a brand hat on, but also like really digging into data insights. And, OMD really taught me like how to traffic digital ads, which then at Home Depot helped me, help them bring programmatic in-house. So just a lot of, experience that I've been able to gain throughout my career.
Well, when you were talking about kind of being in grad school and sort of thinking that marketing was something that you wanted to do, I mean, what drew you to that in the first place? Do you remember how you even kind of found out it was a career option?
Yeah, so actually, my first career choice coming out of high school was to be a talk show host.
Mine too.
Oh, wow. Yes. So, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was like, yay, another person in this one. But yeah, so like I actually just was a huge fan of like Jenny Jones and Ricky Lake back in the day. So I went to school for broadcast communications in undergrad. But I also was very passionate about music. And so like, as I'm going through my undergrad program, I'm seeing how the music industry was shifting. So at this time, you're starting to see like Starbucks and like how they're, integrating music into their business model. Even like J.C. Penney's at the time, like when you would go to their checkout counters, you would start to see how they were integrating music. So just talking to my mentor, they were like, you should follow the trend. And so they mentioned integrated marketing communications. It was something, I had never heard of. So I did a Google search and saw, where I could go to get a graduate degree in this. And that's really kind of what sparked me to leave talk show hosting behind and really kind of lean into a marketing career. And so that, along with, sociology classes and just really like the study of people, it just really sparked like an interest in me to really kind of lean in heavily in marketing and all aspects of it. Even at that point, like many people, when I heard marketing, I guess, in undergrad, I just thought about the advertising, the final product that you see on TV. But my career started in media. So really like the strategy behind that. And it was so difficult to help like my parents understand that because they would see like an Intel ad or, even at Sarcoma, I was on the Kellogg's business. They'd be like, oh, my baby, she did that. And I'm like, well, I didn't actually do the ad, but I helped it make sure it got into the right place. So that's really kind of what sparked it, just like following a trend that I saw in the industry and realizing that there was this, entire world out there that it didn't necessarily mean that I need to know how to be creative and come up with a, advertising concept, but I can be strategic and help brands in that manner.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love that I'm not the only person whose parents can't really describe what I do. My parents send those Christmas letters, and every year I'm like, oh, interesting. So I do that. I mean, I've done it like that. The things that they say that I do are next level. But I know actually it's interesting that you were an admissions counselor for a time, because I know that you spend a lot of time with people who are early in their careers, particularly kind of late, managing Sam's Club's marketing kind of intern program. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what's drawn you to that piece, which is, kind of probably different from your day to day?
Sorry, I think I froze for a little bit.
Oh, I think you did too. No, I just kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about the work that you do, managing Sam's Club's intern program, as well as maybe kind of some of the advice that you give your mentees.
Yeah, I think, just having mentors myself is something that I've always been passionate about. How can I help others? I've had people reach out to me and, say, oh my gosh, like, how did you get to where you've gotten? So it's been a passion point of mine to make sure that, I'm always building and marching for those unseen and potentially the people that I just never know. So, when I was asked to, hey, spearhead the Sam's Club marketing internship program, I jumped on that opportunity because I wanted to make sure that, people felt like they were supported and that they understood, all aspects of our organization, not necessarily, their day-to-day work. So, I work with the interns. I help make sure that they get onboarded. I make sure that they have someone that they can reach out to throughout the internship, regardless if I'm their hiring manager or not. I help with their final presentations. But one of the things I do, like as interns get their offer letters and they, accept their offer letters, I try to send a welcome email. At the very bottom of that email, I always end the email telling them to make sure that they understand what it is that they want from corporate America. So not just, think about what you want from the internship, but also what is it that you want from corporate America? Because there's a reason that you want to be in this position. And I think that's very important. Like even in my own career, it's been important for me to truly understand what it is that I desire out of my career. Like I feel like I'm walking in my purpose. One of my old bosses used to always talk about, the 3 Ps: position, place, and purpose. And I feel like, that's something that I always want to be grounded in. But, our jobs can often take a lot out of us. So it's important for us to be very clear in what we want to make sure that we're getting our return of investment as well.
That's great. I love that. I'm curious, kind of when Sam's Club looks for these marketing interns, kind of where are they looking? Kind of, are they casting a wide net? And are you a part of that process?
Yes, we do cast a very wide net. So we have a couple of our core schools that we've just really established relationships with. And over the years, we've also started to really focus in on HBCU recruitment as well. So I do sit on our internal team that helps, build those relationships and foster those relationships with our HBCU schools. So we do pretty much have like a pretty wide net of where we're recruiting. And we recently got on Handshake, so we'll post opportunities on there for different schools to engage and interact with us. But we
That's
have a
great.
pretty large campus recruiting arm, and then they work closely with the different divisions and what their needs are.
That's awesome. Kind of switching gears a little bit, can you talk about a recent program that you were a part of that you're kind of particularly proud of?
Yeah, working at Sam's Club has been a lot of fun, and there have been a lot of opportunities extended to me to lead the charge on a couple of different initiatives. I would have to say I probably have two, but one of the ones that I'm most excited about, or was most excited to work on, was our recent Black History Month initiative. So I know when people think of Sam's Club, they probably instantly think of Walmart, and Walmart has their multicultural efforts. It's not something that Sam's Club, has been as intentional or active in developing those specific efforts, but we are very inclusive in our marketing efforts. With that being said, this year we really wanted to make sure that we have a focus on those key cohorts and really take it to another level of showing how inclusive and how much inclusivity and diversity matters to us. So we launched a Black History Month campaign, and we decided that, instead, or I recommended, and the organization went along with, instead of focusing on products first, we decided to lead with humanity. So if you think about the entities that make Sam's Club, it's going to be our small business members, it's going to be our associates, it's going to be, even some like our HBCU graduates and the stuff that we do with them. So we really focused on spotlighting and, working with those people. From our small business members, we were able to give out some donations, especially knowing how, 2020 was a rough year for them. We worked closely with some amazing associates to spotlight their efforts, from, one of our associates who started out as a cashier is now a club manager, from, some of our HBCU graduates who they just never even imagined that an internship would lead to a full-time conversion. So really some great stories. And one of the things we did from a product standpoint was we actually worked with some amazing authors and did virtual readings. So it was really fun. We had a virtual reading every weekend, the month of February. And I'm talking about some great authors. We got to work with Mina Harris on her book, Ambitious Girl, Jamar Tisby on one of his books, and Malcolm Mitchell, who's a former NFL player, Super Bowl champ. And so all these great people partnered with us to be able to spotlight their books and talk just, how they got into being authors. It was really fun.
That's awesome. That's incredible. I mean, how do you find all the stories that you kind of mentioned? I mean, it's such a large organization, I'm sure, but I'm just kind of curious on kind of how you dig for those stories, and how do you find them?
Yeah, so just, we have a couple of category managers, so we each focus on our separate divisions, but really just fostering those relationships with our merchant partners, sitting in on their meetings, and when they talk about like, oh, we're bringing in, this great product, just really asking them questions. I think the good thing, and me, you kind of talked about this beforehand, but I feel like if I think about, previous marketing jobs and where I am today, a lot of times marketing has felt like a support function. And I definitely think that there's been a shift in where everyone has a marketer inside of them. So I'm really seeing from my merchandise partners that they know that these are the stories that really need to be told, and these are the things that our members gravitate to. So sometimes they're just coming to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I have this great story. And then when I hear it, I'm like, actually, you do have a great story. And I wish I could have recorded you when you said that, because that's what I need. That's my ad right there.
Yeah.
So I think it's this great, you see this great emergence of like roles colliding. Because even from my stance, like some of the things that excites me today are the fact that I get to sit in these merchandise meetings and I know their business. I understand, inventory. I understand different pulses throughout the year. So sorry. I haven't had internet issues all day. And
No, you were good. It was a small, you stopped, at least for me, on the kind of like that you understand kind of the categories,
business.
those merchants business. So where you stop. So,
Oh
so
man.
continue to go.
No, that's pretty much where I ended.
Okay.
This is unfortunate. I'm sorry, all the viewers.
I think we've all experienced it. Yeah, you definitely don't have to apologize for that. You mentioned that there was another program too that you were particularly proud of, kind of before we started talking about Black History Month. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so our Merchant as Hero program, which is now evolved to just like a hero ecosystem. So that has been really exciting strategy. And once again, it really centered around leading with humanity and finding those, the behind the scenes stories of what makes our products really great. As we're working to really drive advocacy amongst our members and really, shift our quality perception, sometimes you have to leverage, your merchants or influencers to really tell those stories. And it just is a part of shifting beyond just an item and price kind of framework. So things like working with our salmon merchant for him to tell us about how great our salmon is and how the traceability, and we literally can tell you where we caught the salmon from and, the sustainability part of it, and it's sashimi grade, to our berry product and just, our berries, we have a very specific spec and it ensures that you're always going to get the, best flavor and like a high sweetness from the berries you buy from Sam's Club. Another one that I really like is, our asparagus story and like just hearing how the merchant works to make sure you get like 7 extra days of freshness, and because we flight it in every day. So just like little things like that, when you start to hear those behind the scenes stories, you're like, wow, like Sam's Club goes, out their way to really make sure they're delivering a great product to me. And I think, even before, working closely with these merchants, I didn't know some of these things. And it makes me even more, proud to, one, be a member and work for this organization.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I think as somebody who's kind of done a lot of work with retail in the past, it's very easy to just kind of just say like price promo and kind of not sort of dig a little bit deeper to kind of figure out like, gosh, what did it take to get that product here? And kind of, yeah, exactly. What are the specs? What are the, what's the quality that has to be present in order to be at this club? I have to know, is there like a story behind the sushi? Or maybe you don't know, but I was at Sam's Club a couple of weeks ago. I took a whole picture of the case. It was incredible. I didn't expect to see sushi at Sam's Club. And I was yearning for the ability to entertain and bring it home. Do you know any story behind that?
Yeah, so we have sushi in about 420 of our clubs. And what people don't know is that our sushi is actually made in the club. So it's not something that like gets sent to us pre-made. We actually work with some amazing sushi chefs. All of our chefs go through a rigorous training by some top sushi masters. And yeah, so it's a really amazing program. We see a lot of, great feedback from it. And we're always trying to innovate. Like one of our partners, we do kind of like a role contest, and they allow all their little sushi chefs to participate, and then we pick a role, and that's kind of like our spotlight for the year. So really amazing program, and I love our sushi as well.
Yeah, no, I knew there had to be a story behind it. So, so kind of switching, switching topics a little bit. You've had a great career at OMD, at Home Depot, at Sam's Club, kind of elsewhere. I'm sure there are times where you're the only person of color in a room, and at times asked to speak on behalf of all Black people or for all women. Can you tell us a little bit about how you navigate that?
Yeah, I would say that's an uncomfortable, situation. So
Mhm.
anyone out here, don't ever put your employees in that place where you feel like they should be the ones to just speak for an entire body, female, male, African American, or any other race. Because we already know that the room is looking at us, so we don't need you to actually put us on the spot. For me, I've always tried in my career to make sure that I can speak on topics that don't lend themselves to my ethnicity.
Mhm.
So I focus very hard on making sure that I provide value in any conversation when I'm at the table so that I don't get looked upon for just, oh, what's your perspective on this situation? Now I'm happy to be a part of those conversations, but I'm not necessarily an expert in just that. And I want to make sure that people realize that, I stay abreast of industry trends. I'm constantly, trying to grow in my own knowledge so that I can add value to all conversations. So I think it's just important, one, for employers and colleagues to recognize it, but then also for, once again, it's knowing what you want from corporate America and
Mhm.
how you want to be positioned and what is your brand and making sure that you can live up to that.
I think that's really great advice for all of us, and I think a good kind of reminder to everybody too. Um, so I guess kind of zooming out from Sam's Club, which I feel like this is just a big commercial for Sam's Club, which I do really love. So I'm sorry for that. But oh, actually, someone has a question here. That I think is really a better follow-up question. How do you break out from being the multicultural expert? And I know that that was a role that you've played in the past, not at Sam's Club, but to just the expert.
Yeah, I think once again, it's about like that knowledge gaining. So while I've held, and this is like my personal opinion, I've held positions, as we mentioned, where I focus on multicultural media, but then I've also made sure that my career, consisted of opportunities that was more general market. So I think that, I mentioned at one point that like I never want to be just a media person, which is why my career today is not focused on media, but it's more in the brand marketing space. So I think you just have to make sure that you find those additional opportunities that will help diversify your experience, to make sure that you just don't look like a multicultural expert. And that's really what I've done. Like, as we mentioned, I started at OMD, then I went to Starcom.
Mhm.
And when I originally got recruited by Home Depot, it was to, oversee digital marketing. But then I was able to add on responsibility for multicultural marketing. And then when I got recruited to Sam's Club, they started me out like overseeing all their paid media. And then I spoke up. Once again, I knew that I never wanted to be labeled as just a media person. So I spoke up and, talked to the leaders at B and told them what my aspirations were, where I really wanted to lean in for my career growth, and was afforded that opportunity to shift into a more strategic and brand marketing role.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. That's great. Um, so kind of, but yeah, zooming out from Sam's Club, is there work that you've seen in the world that you've been kind of particularly impressed by, or maybe wish that you had been a part of because it's spoken to you kind of either personally or professionally?
So I would say there are a couple of examples of work that I've been like, oh my gosh, that was like a really great execution. And I love what they're doing there.
Mhm.
The first one is, I don't know if anyone's seen the Facebook groups commercial that I think it's I Am Beautiful. I really like that one because when we think about Facebook, we know their whole mission is, connecting the world. But I think that group and just, the body positivity and the, being unapologetically you that comes through that commercial just really spoke to me. And I was like, I like that. I really like, what they're doing, what they're saying, even though they're focused on Facebook groups, which goes back to their mission of connecting the world. So that one, and then I've spoken a lot about leading with humanity, which I think is very important as you shift from having like these transactional relationships with your customers or members and you want to be more conversational. So leading with humanity is very important. And while I think in the insurance industry, State Farm and their Jake commercials. So we've seen spokespeople in insurance for years, but Jake is not a spokesperson to me. Like Jake literally embodies who State Farm stands for. And I just think the way that they've executed that has just been great. It's amazing. I literally, like, I will stop what I'm doing when a Jake commercial comes on. Like, what's they talking about today? Like, I really love those commercials.
I do too. It's a, you know, it's a good point. And I think that it's such an interesting time when there's such good work coming out of insurance companies. Like
Yes.
who would have thought, by the way, that would be the case? But yeah, I enjoy Jake as well. And I live in Kansas City, so I'm a big Patrick Mahomes fan. And there were a lot of commercials with Jake and Patrick.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, um, that's great. Yeah. Any other kind of like work that's spoken to you of late?
I think the only other one that I can probably think of,
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I don't want to say the like common ones. Like I think Nike, they constantly kill it.
Mhm.
I can't say enough about them. Sephora, I think, does an amazing job. Even like on so of course mainly their social presence is where I see them, but I think just what they stand for, their brand, just really great work. I also like Tostitos. I saw an ad not too long from them, and it was interesting. It was the one where the guy had like wasted the salsa on his shirt, and then the two other people standing next to him were like trying to debate like who's gonna say something. And to me, it's like a natural insight in how they made it come to life. Because that's so true. When you see stuff out of place with people, you're like, do I tell them? Do I not tell them?
Right.
And then, like in the end, he tells this girl that she has like lipstick on her teeth, and then she was like, so rude. But it's just such a cute ad. And I think because you instantly can recognize the insight and that's natural and it's something that you've probably been in that situation before, to me, it's a great body of work.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, I think we are kind of at the time. I believe the next kind of piece is Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, we'd love to have me not kind of be talking all the time, but if there are any other questions, would love to hear them. And okay, yeah, there we go. All right. So if anyone has anything, please let us know. But in the meantime, I guess, Yvette, what do you see for yourself, next? I mean, you've clearly kind of seen lots of kind of different aspects of marketing. What are some of the other areas that you want to explore?
Yeah, I think if I were to ever leave Sam's Club, then I would probably want to go tech side. So would want to go kind of work on a platform like maybe like a Google or Facebook or somewhere in that realm. But if I ever left marketing, interesting enough, I would want to be a flight attendant.
That's awesome.
So I always think about that too. I always like, man, if I ever get tired of this, I think,
Yeah.
I know at least what I want to do in that aspect.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. We've got a great question here. What advice would you give a recent graduate just starting off in the industry?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is LinkedIn is your friend. No, don't compare yourself to other people.
Yeah.
But I just think the power of LinkedIn, honestly, my last two job opportunities came from recruiters reaching out to me on LinkedIn. So being able to really navigate that platform, understand the algorithm behind it and how you get recognized by recruiters is crucial. And, as cliche as it may sound, like your net worth is your network. So that's very important. Like I tell people all the time, what's your hit list of companies? And then who in your network works at those companies or knows someone who works at those companies? And then how do you navigate those waters? don't be afraid of informal conversations. I think, while your end goal is to try to land an amazing opportunity, you never know what will come out of just like an informal conversation. So don't be discouraged if it doesn't get you there, but it may open a door to something else or someone else that will eventually help you get to your path. And just, you may get 100 no's, 100 Dear John emails or sorry, but we decided to move a different way. Don't let it discourage you. You just have to keep charting those waters and, just stay focused on what your end goal is.
Yeah, I love that. I also think it's just amazing that most people will just have a conversation with a recent graduate. I feel like it's, I have been reached out to and I don't think I've ever said no. And, I feel like people's natural instinct is to try to help. And if you come and say, do you have a job? Sometimes the answer is no, but if you have other questions or you kind of get to kind of, like you said, if you know what you want out of corporate America, usually one conversation leads to another, leads to another.
And I feel like that's the same thing once you're in your career. Like I've never had anyone tell me no, they won't talk to me about career growth and help me understand, potentially like what opportunities exist within an organization. So I feel like often we shy away from those conversations, but I think, it's important to be proactive and have those as well.
Great. Well, another great question here, I guess probably related to that. What soft skill do you feel like has been the most important in your overall career growth?
I would say two things for me. I would say one, passion.
Mm-hmm.
So just truly being passionate about my work. And I say that because when I'm passionate about something such as marketing, that means the tedious task, I still do it with as much energy, excitement, attention to detail as I do like the task that I know my SVP of marketing is going to see.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, just having that passion, will help you in your career. The other thing is, which I feel like doesn't necessarily go as talked about, is accountability. Like I am not afraid to say I got it wrong, but at the same time, I'm also saying how I learned from that lesson. Mm-hmm. So being able to say like, yep, that was me, that was my bad. But next time I won't do it again. I think that people really respect someone who like holds themselves accountable.
Mm-hmm. I think I think that is so true. And probably one of those things that is always appreciated, but kind of often not
exactly
said. Yeah, I know that I would much rather someone kind of own a mistake than explain it away. So I also tell my kids that they don't really listen, but no. But anyway, so as a leader, you're always developing your ability. What skills would you like to see your marketing team develop more of this year?
I think we have an opportunity to push the needle. I think, and I feel like our, Tony Rogers, who's our leader, I feel like he's definitely pushing us to push the needle. So it's great to have that encouragement and someone who's like, yep, we can do more. Or someone who's like, but what else? So I think, that's our opportunity to not play it safe and know like, hey, these are the things we've always done, but like, how can we really push the needle? And I've definitely seen our team think in that manner. So I would say that's probably the biggest opportunity for us from a skill set perspective.
Yeah, you mentioned Tony Rogers, who's the CMO of Sam's Club, and talk about a guy who seems to exude kind of like enthusiasm and inclusiveness. I mean, what is it like to kind of work under a leader like that? Do you feel like it's impacted the organization?
Oh, for sure.
I
Like,
feel like that seemed like a really leading question. I'm sorry.
no, it's great. I've worked underneath a lot of great leaders. So I have no complaints with anyone I've ever worked under. But Tony is just, I feel like he's in another league of his own, like just the way that he influences and motivates an organization. It's, I've just never really seen anything like it. He's amazing. I don't know if anyone ever got a chance to work for him, like I'm pretty sure they always say the same thing. But he expects a lot of his organization, but at the same time, he gives a lot of himself, and he is there for us from a mentor perspective, as well as really showcasing what it means to be a great leader. So he's not afraid to even roll up his own sleeves and jump in and assist with the work that we do.
Right. Another question for you. Obviously we're kind of all working from home now. How do you feel about kind of like, what do you think the future of work should be if you were in charge of the world?
Oh, that's a hard one for me because I
I
have no
know.
problems working from home. I love it. But no, I have my moments where I miss my team. And once again, just like the atmosphere of Sam's Club marketing, it's almost like we're all a family. So I definitely miss my teammates. I think that there is a role for offices, maybe more in a collaborative space, weekly or monthly, like let's get together, let's make sure that, we're having those moments of connection and collaboration. But for me, that's probably what it would look like. It'd probably be like, you have to come into the office 1 week out of every month. Other than that, work from home.
Yeah, it's amazing how things have changed. I guess to kind of round it out, I'm curious, what is the best advice you feel like you've ever been given?
The best advice I've ever been given. I would say that it has been not only know your job, but know the person, if you have a direct report, know your direct report's job, and then definitely know the person above you, their job. And not necessarily for the reason that like, oh, if you want to get promoted, you need to know how to do your superior's work, but just to make sure that you are kind of like a master of everything to an extent. And I think, that advice has helped me in my career. So if I think about when I was at Starcom, I shifted from, OMD, where I was on a hybrid desk, to Starcom, where I was solely strategy and wasn't focusing on execution. But I worked closely with my execution partners, and I tried to know everything that they knew. So at this point in Starcom is when programmatic really started to become a thing. I took the programmatic classes that Starcom offered. Like I was in those sessions, even though that really wasn't my job, but I made sure that I was abreast of like what it was, how it worked, how do you execute it. So that for like when Home Depot recruited me, it was one of the things that they wanted to make sure that they had a team that was knowledgeable of. And I was able to speak to that, you know, in an in-depth manner, but it's because I didn't just know my job sitting in the strategy desk, but I knew the jobs of people around me. So I think that's just how you become well-rounded in your career, is like, don't just focus